Welcome to Reading the Bible Together, and today we continue the story of Abraham as we're introduced more fully to his nephew Lot here in Genesis chapter 13. Now, we're leaving the uncomfortable situation in Egypt behind and traveling back into the land of Canaan up through the Negev desert. Imagine a caravan of camels with flocks and servants trailing behind, a considerable group. They're walking through rocky sand and often quite mountainous terrain, perhaps encountering a sandstorm or two. I've been in several sandstorms in the Negev, and it's like traveling in a blinding snowstorm, but instead of icy, prickly snow, you're being sandblasted, and you find sand in the bottom of your shower for days afterwards. And we're told the caravan makes its way from place to place, arriving again at Bethel, just north of Jerusalem. Now, once there, the Bible tells us that Abraham called on the name of the Lord. Now, the Hebrew text tells us that Abraham invoked the name Yahweh, the name by which God revealed himself to Moses, but apparently first to Abraham. Now, Abraham is traveling together with Lot, Abraham's nephew by his late brother Haran. It's possible that Abraham thought the great nation promised by God would come through the much younger Lot, but of course that's not what happens. What does happen is conflict. Abraham is already wealthy. Back in chapter 12, we're told that they entered the promised land with all the possessions they had accumulated and all the people they had acquired. Abraham's wealth is further increased through the Egyptian affair, acquiring, we are told, sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men servants and maid servants, and camels. Now, camels are specifically mentioned as they were not part of the landscape of Canaan. Very few camel bones are found in Israel in archaeological digs from this era. They would have been a very exotic asset acquired in Egypt. When they leave Egypt, it reads that they were able to keep everything they had, including the camels. But with wealth comes problems. The land, we are told, could not support them. There were simply too many people and too much livestock to support, and it resulted in conflict between the herdsmen of Abraham and the herdsmen of Lot. Now, of course, the Canaanites and Perizzites, which are a hill tribe in the area, were also there, and they would have resented too much of a drain on the local resources. So it was time to part ways. Lot looks around to the east, to the Jordan Valley as it is today, and it was well watered and fertile in that direction, much more promising than the rough hill country to the west. Now, tellingly, the text mentions that it reminds Lot of Egypt, perhaps the fertile Nile Delta. Now, perhaps Abraham would rather not be reminded of Egypt, but Lot grew wealthy there, and so he thinks, that's what I want, and he heads east. In a very important line, we read, Abram lived in the land of Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of the plain and pitched his tents near Sodom. Abram, having returned to the promised land, is now obedient to God, and he remains within it. But Lot follows the money and the bright lights of Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, where are Sodom and Gomorrah? While nowadays you'll be pointed to the midpoint of the Dead Sea, quite a bit south from where a literal reading of the text would indicate, where the inhospitable terrain and undrinkable water make it easy to envision fire raining down from the sky, the Bible paints a far more fertile picture that Lot was pursuing. And so as a result of this, archaeologist Stephen Collins places Sodom and Gomorrah in kind of a large oval-shaped fertile plain just north of the Dead Sea, called simply Ha-Kikar, or the Disk. Now, this area, which is due east of Jericho, across the Jordan River on the other side of the Jordan, remains fertile to this day. Look up Tal El Hammam. That's T-A-L-L space E-L-H-A-M-M-A-M on Google Earth, and you'll see the extensive greenery for itself in the middle of quite a bit of desert. Now, I will talk more about the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis chapter 19. But as a prelude to the unhappy events there, chapter 13 only warns us, now the men of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. Uh-oh. Well, back to Abram. Note that the ambivalent picture of Abraham painted in chapter 12 is improved in chapter 13. In this chapter, he is faithful, both in calling upon the name of the Lord and in remaining in the promised land. In fact, while Lot looks around to see what the best part of the land is for him to take, Abraham doesn't look around until God tells him to. Abraham is also magnanimous in allowing his nephew to choose what appears to be the richer pastures. Perhaps that's why the Lord reiterates and perhaps even renews the covenant made in chapter 12, making it clear that the deal is with Abraham and not with Lot, and making it clear that Canaan and not Egypt or not Tel al-Hammam across the Jordan is indeed the promised land. We read this. The Lord said to Abram after Lot had parted from him, look around. See, now God's telling Abraham to look around. Look around from where you are in Canaan. Look around to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, and all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. Not Lot, your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you. So once again, obedient to the Lord, Abram packs up the tents and he hits the road. He pitches his tents near the great trees of Mamre. Great trees is translated variously as terebinths, a kind of large pistachio tree, or oak. Now, Mamre is today an archaeological site in the middle of the city of Hebron. It's about 30 kilometers south of Jerusalem. We're told that Abraham, as he had done at Bethel, built an altar to the Lord, marking the presence of God there, which is a continued sign of Abraham's faithfulness. Well, that's chapter 13. Now, although short, it lays the groundwork geographically and interpersonally for much of what is to come. Keep these place names and events in mind, as we will return to them next time as we continue to read the Bible together with Genesis chapter 14. And we will see you then.